Good evening, campers. It's a very, very happy Monday to you all. It's Andy here, the professional human, alongside Anywhere Auctions, who have been amazing in supporting the show this whole time. I really appreciate everything that they've done in backing what it is that I'm saying. How are we, gang? How are we? How's our weekend been? Let us know with the scores on the doors in the comment section below. How was your weekend out of 10? Did you have a productive one? Was it successful? Did you have any amazing stories? Did you get anything done around the house? How was your weekend out of 10, team? And, if you didn't have the best weekend, if you didn't have the most productive weekend, maybe give yourself a bit of a target to see if you can really change your fortunes in the weekend ahead. Look, I was so tempted. To go a bit Melburnian on y'all and start playing Freedom by George Michael, because that's what it's starting to feel like down here in the lockdown state. We're starting to see a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. As of Thursday night, we're going to be out wielding the gavel in front of houses again, which is nice. It's a relief to not have to be contained by four walls the whole time. So, team, let us know how your weekend was out of 10. Give us a bit of a score on the door below. Let us know how you're getting on. Anyway, generally, I had an interesting one at the back end of last week, and I got some interesting feedback as well with regards to the show that I did on just before the weekend on the Friday night around celebrating success versus just pumping your own tires. I had a couple of bits of feedback suggesting that maybe people should do it if it makes them feel better. Well, yeah, I mean that's absolutely fine, man. If it makes you feel better, then rock and roll. Do whatever gets you off, right? Whatever floats your boat. But at the same time, you can't confuse that with trying to get more business. It just doesn't work like that, right? But anyway, it was some really good feedback, actually. So I really appreciate everybody that reached out. On to tonight's show. Inspired by my probably a sad thing that I care to that I'm going to admit here. I really like cooking shows. Like, I'm a massive fan of cooking shows. Look, I enjoy cooking anyway, but I really enjoy watching cooking shows. It's the process, right? It's the whole thing of watching something go from like a whole bunch of stuff to this amazing piece of art in many aspects, right? I just really, really enjoy cooking shows. And I also enjoy how they handle pressure in the competition shows, right? So I'll watch cooking shows anyway, but the ones that are in competitions, I really enjoy seeing how they handle pressure and how they, inevitably go from back against the wall, really fucked it up, to bringing something together despite having the odds stacked against them. I think it's really, really cool. So I'm gonna start to have a chat about, though, got me thinking, what can we learn from MasterChef, right? Because a lot of these celebrity chefs, and here's my point, a lot of celebrity chefs that have become like world famous, right? So you're thinking about the Gordon Ramsays, the Heston Blumenthal's, the Jamie Olivers, Marco Pierre White's, those sorts of people, right? The vast, vast, vast majority of the population that know or follow or enjoy their stuff or whatever the case may be, they'll never set foot in a restaurant that is run or owned by any of those people. Partly because they're so fucking expensive, it's not even funny. And then you have to generally go to Macca's to, fill the rest of your stomach up, right? You don't go there for a feed, you go there for an experience, right? But why are they so ridiculous? Why are chefs, celebrity chefs, seen as almost the rock stars of today's media, right? Because they really are. They're really put on this massive, great, big chuffing pedestal as to like the coolest people on the planet. They're like up here, right? You could almost argue they've gone way past, in terms of holistic vernacular, they've gone way past any musician. So, what can we learn from them, right? What sort of things do they do that we should be thinking about bringing into our real estate games? Because let's face it, if we could have a millionth of the attention that Gordon Ramsay has, then we'd be extremely successful, right? We'd be super successful. So, what is it? What is it that they do? What is it that is about them that makes them so easy to follow? Yeah. And there's a couple of parallels because ultimately they're in a service industry. They're judged by their end product. We're judged by our end product. The service that they provide and the communication that they have is very much in line with what we do because we want people to follow us. We want people to believe that we know what we're doing, right? So there are some parallels here. I'm not being too far-fetched by suggesting that we can go some way to learning a thing or two from some of these celebrity chefs in terms of our own personal branding, marketing, the way that we approach our community, our client base, all those sorts of things. Okay. There are some things that I think are absolutely in parallel. Here's the first one. And I think this is probably the biggest one. They have a transparency in their process. Now, if celebrity chefs, well, they wouldn't be celebrity. If chefs were to market how they go about putting these ridiculously spectacular things on a plate, right? In the same way that we go about showing people how we produce amazing results, or we provide amazing tenants, or we look after our landlords' properties. If chefs did that the same way as we did that, then they would not be celebrity chefs. End of. Because obviously they have cookbooks and they have all these shows where they'll show you step by step, process by element, right? Being incredible detail as to how they go about producing these masterpieces. If they were to, but if they were to do that in the same way that we talk about our skills, our services, our abilities, then you would literally have a cookbook where it would have a picture of the end dish and then the price, right? It would have maybe in some instances, a picture of the ingredients, and then it would just skip straight to the end result, and that's it. And no context, right? No context whatsoever. The cookbooks that are normally about that thick would be fucking hideously small if they were to show how they got to the end product in the same way that what us real estate professionals do. Now, let's flip the script on this a little bit. Because one of the main ways, if not the main way, right, that these big time chefs become as big as they are is because they can walk the walk, right? They don't just talk the talk, they can walk the walk. And they go to extreme lengths to prove that they can walk the walk. Yeah? Have a think about that for a second, because if we're looking at our profession as, particularly skillful, which it is, right? Because the really skillful players in our game are tens of thousands of, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars different in outcome from the average to the shit players in our industry, right? They are. You can fluke an occasional good result, but to do it consistently takes real skill. If we think about it in the way that the chefs do, in terms of how we go about showing that we legit know what we are doing, then why the hell aren't we broadcasting every single little element of our process? What better way to show people that I ain't just a fluke, that I'm not just a flash in the pan, that I am legit in what I do, and I actually do what I say I'm going to do. Here's the proof. Ooh, that'd be sexy. I would love it, right? And I'm not talking about the Gary V, have someone follow you around the whole time, right? But documenting your process at each individual element and then stringing that together, maybe paying a videographer or an editor to do a bit of post work, post film edit to make it look a bit more polished. Man, that would be powerful. Because we talk about case studies, right? And case studies are supposed to be the illustration of you being able to actually prove that you know what you are doing, right? That's what case studies are. But imagine if you had them down on wax on video and then be able to show people the story of someone's process, of a client's process from the very first phone call right the way through till settlement day. Fuck, that'd be powerful stuff. Because let's face it, like a lot of these chefs that claim to be great or claim to be like, I mean, I'm sure they know what they're doing. I mean, a lot of us kind of know what we're doing in many respects, right? We can follow the legislation, blah, 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 blah. But the ones that can tell the story throughout the process and actually show, you know, like the real estate version of knife skills, right? You see Gordon Ramsay, he just goes bah, 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 and with his knife skills, right? We can show that sort of stuff in what we do. No one does that. No one has done that. If you did it, God, you'd get some attention. You really, really would. So that's the first thing I want to talk about is the transparency in the process. Now, the other thing, and this segues me into my second point, is belief in their own abilities. Now, they basically give all their secrets away in these books, right? Or on their shows. They tell you all of their trade secrets. Yeah. They're so transparent in everything they do because they want you to see the process that gets you to such a good outcome. And then it gets you as a consumer that one step closer to wanting to go and experience it for yourself. Yeah. The other thing that backs all of that up is the fact that they believe in their ability so much that they don't give a shit if anybody copies them, because ultimately the real thing is the real thing. And if you have a strong enough belief in your own abilities as a professional in our game, then you shouldn't really need to worry about people copying you in terms of your process or your procedures or whatever, right? You shouldn't need to be worried. It's this cloak and dagger thing where agents or agencies, they tend to, and I've mentioned this before about recruitment, they're so cloak and dagger in what they do, but you know, the what of what we do is kind of like saying that you've got this amazing recipe for an omelette or scrambled eggs, thinking that no one else does it the same. It's bullshit. Everyone does it, has a basic form of process that gets them from listed or getting a listing to sold, right? Of some description. The biggest mistake I think a lot of agents hold themselves back with is the fact that they are not prepared to put it out all on wax and then have the belief in themselves so that it doesn't matter if anybody copies you, it ain't going to be you doing it. Right? Cam, that's a great little point. Imitation is the ultimate form of flattery. 100%. Couldn't agree with that more. But for some reason, we have this hurdle in our minds as professionals that we can't be that upfront and open and transparent about everything that we're doing because we fear that people are going to copy us. Bollocks to that. If people are copying me, then one, it means that I must be doing something right. But two, it means that they are concerned is the fact that their own process is a fucking shit. And ultimately, no one can do it the way that you can do your process. Yeah? I mean, the amount of times, right, I've tried to follow on these fucking recipes and And as you may all have seen from some of my cakes, right? What it starts out as and what it ends up being are two very, very different things. Right? Because I'm not that good. Right? It's the same with the auction process, the auction process, getting people from A to B, working through the legislation, all that, relatively standard. The real art, the real beauty to it is in the individual. It's not in the process. It's the same with any part of our profession. And if we want people to really value that, then we've got to value that ourselves, right? We've got to value that ourselves. So we've got to have that internal belief that we are legit. We are worth listening to, right? And look, some of the stuff that you say, I bet a stack of agents will already be doing, right? But that's fine because you're the one that's prepared to put your bollocks on the line in the public forum and allow consumers, the people that you really want to connect with, not the other fucking bullshit agents that are tall poppy syndrome types that you're shitting yourselves about because you're worried that they're just going to start ripping into you or taking a piss or Lords of Property is going to fucking grab it or whatever the case may be. Bollocks to all of that. You don't give a shit about them. You give a shit about your consumers. Surely. So just focus on showing your wares to the people that actually fucking matter. Because everybody else, they don't mean shit to you. It's the consumers that should mean anything to you. So just be one-eyed about that. Fuck what other people can do, because you're you. You can do you better than anyone else. Now, third point, and this is hopefully something that I show a little bit. These chefs, whenever you're watching them, right, and this is probably one of the things that has me mesmerized by watching cooking programs, is this pure one-eyed passion for what they do. Like, it's just insane. Like, to the point where sometimes it gets a little bit weird, but in the vast majority of the cases, the fact that they just have so much passion and care for the cut of meat or the fish or the vegetables and the way they prepare them, the way that they look after each element that goes onto their plates is just out of this world good. It's out of this world good. Why aren't we holding enough passion for the things that we do? Kind of ties in with a session that I did for Century 21 Better Homes and Gardens last week, where we were talking about procrastination in prospecting, right? And I was speaking to Matt Shalub from Under the Hammer, who's a ripper guy, actually. If you don't know him, connect with him. He's a dude. He's such a cool guy. Such a good bloke, based in Sydney. And we were talking about how a lot of people just do prospecting to tick a box because then they can say that they've done it. Well, you ain't going to get passionate about shit that all you're doing it for is just ticking a box. If you actually have a greater purpose around each element of your prospecting, actually have a reason as to why you're doing it. Not to just fill my database or get the next listing. Like, why? Each element matters. What part of your pipeline are they going into? What part of the process are they on? What part of your community that you have within your data, which element of that are you serving? If you've got a bit more purpose around each element of your process, you are going to get more passionate about it. And if you give a shit, right, that's half the reason why I won most of my list, is because I look like I actually put across to them that I actually gave a shit. Not just about them, but about what I do and how I go about it. Most importantly, my time. I gave a shit about my time more than anything. And that they loved that. If you can actually show that you give a shit about anything, when you're at a listing presentation, when you're at a buyer appointment, whatever the fuck it is, wow. That communicates way more than anything that you could possibly say. Let that sink in for a sec, team, because that's big. Because we do so many transactions, right? We sometimes fall into the trap of complacency. How many meals do you think these chefs make? How many fucking carrots do you think they chop? Thousands and thousands and thousands. That'd be a week. And the top players give a shit about every single carrot that goes onto their plate. That's the sort of passion we need in all of our elements of our process, team. So they're just being so standard and monotonous and cookie cutter. Give a shit. Now, the last one. The ones that like their work worship them, right? And what I mean by that is it's that whole you attract your tribe thing that I'm about to talk about. Because ultimately, gang, we ain't going to flick the switches of all of the consumers that we meet. We're just not. And like with a chef, like certain chefs are heavy into seafood, right? Heavy into seafood. I hate seafood, right? I wish I didn't, but I do. I can't stand it. It's the texture thing. So, for those chefs that are seafood restaurants, I ain't going to touch with a barge pole. I can respect that they know what they're doing, but I won't go there. I won't make a point to go there. Different strokes for different folks. Different cuisines appeal to different people. Therefore, different chefs in their skill sets and their abilities and their knowledge and their know-how and their approach and their awareness are going to attract different people inherently because of the basic senses. Taste, smell, all the rest of it. We need to really, really get that into our heads. I know for a fact, right? And this is probably another reason why I had a few more messages over the course of the weekend and whatnot about some of these videos, is the fact that I'm starting to polarize opinion with respect to how I'm communicating things, because I'm really, feel like I'm really in that, space where I just have an internal belief now, right? I hope that comes across to people. Now, whether you like me or don't, whether you like me swearing on occasion or not, whether you like my accent or think it just grains on you like there's no tomorrow, is secondary to the point where at least you can respect what it is that I've got to say, hopefully. But I'm now comfortable and confident. This was probably the biggest thing that held me back. I was too busy trying to please the world when my world was getting neglected. And ultimately, I'm only going to attract you because of the gravity within my world. I'm only going to attract the ones that are close enough in terms of getting that attraction into my ecosystem. It's the same for you lot. It's kind of been highlighted, right, with this whole vaxxed versus unvaxxed. And there are vendors that have polarized opinion and said, right, I absolutely, no questions asked, only vax people allowed in my property, for example. And there are some agents that have turned around in commentary and said, well, I just won't, I don't need their business then. And it's kind of sad, right, that it's taken something like this that is so divisive in order for us to really draw a line in the sand as to who we're happy to take on and who we're not. I'm not saying that we can all, be a mega that ridiculously picky, but at the same time, there is merit in having a belief in who we are, and therefore are happy to just portray who we are at all times. Now, talking about that Lords of Property, whether you love him or loathe him, that Fraser Lack, he's getting that much more attention now because of that thing. He hasn't changed or wavered in his approach and his opinion, and I'm sure he knows about it, right? Is it my cup of tea? Fuck no. Is it working for him? Maybe. Is he getting business? Yeah. Does it make my stomach turn? Fuck yes, it does. Horribly so. But can I respect the fact that at least he's putting himself out there? 100% I can. Whether you like it or not is irrelevant. Don't let your fucking ego get in the way just because you don't like what other people are doing. What the fact that they are doing is better than your inactivity. The whole standing on the sidelines and, berating from the sidelines, right? Your shit. All those sort of chants, social media commentary and all the rest of it. But unless you're in the game, fuck do you matter? Definitely don't mean much to them. And that was my argument with this whole Lords of Property thing, right? The people that are being highlighted on it, probably the ones that actually think it's amazing that they've got more exposure. The problem is what it's done is it's hindering other people from giving shit a go because of the fact that they're seeing all this real shitty commentary going on and thinking, oh shit, well, I don't want that. I don't want to take the risk of that happening to me. So they stay on the sidelines along with the other 90 something % of real estate professionals in the game across the country and New Zealand and the world, I probably suggest. And that's that's actually a fact. I've been doing a lot more homework on the UK market, a lot more recently, especially because I've got relatives that are on the market or whatnot now. And God, me, they're shit, point one. But it's the same with those personalities in the space. We're not talking about becoming celebrity agents, just talking about owning who the fuck you are and understanding that you ain't going to satisfy everyone. The analogy that people tend to talk about is being vanilla, right? Being vanilla. I'll tell you now, there's a lot of people that can't stand vanilla. Apparently, the smell of vanilla is a really good it's a really good sort of spark in the mind in terms of the buying process, right? I'm telling you now, there's a lot of people that can't stand the smell of vanilla. It doesn't matter what color it is, what doesn't matter what flavor it is, it doesn't matter what it's made of. Ultimately, people are going to love it, or people are going to like it or not. And that's not for you to say. But unless you put yourself out there, you ain't going to find out. You're just not. So, gang, we've got because it is such a parallel, because it is a service game. You could argue that the end product is a dish of food as opposed to a house or whatever the case may be. But the experience, right? Because people experience that food when they eat it. People experience the buying or selling process when they go through it with you. There are absolute parallels towards these chefs going so hard and going so well, and the agents in the game of real estate, whether it's sales, BDM, PM, whatever. There are so many parallels that we could learn from when we're looking at the real top players. So just quickly, once again, transparency in their process. God, people, if whoever cares to dare learn, listen to that, is just going to be away at the races. I swear. Belief in their own abilities. Actually feeling like, you know what, fuck, I don't care if you go. I don't care. I don't care if you copy me. Competing agents. I don't care. Because ultimately, I'm me. That's the one thing you ain't going to replicate. And that's the magic sauce, right? Clear passion for what these chefs do in every single little element, detail of their process. That's what makes them so great. Even the ones that are real rustic, rough and ready and all that sort of jazz. Their detail in the flavor patterns and mixtures and all that sort of stuff is just incredible. And finally, the ones that like their work worship them. But these chefs know and understand that some people just aren't going to have a sweet tooth, or they're not going to like seafood, or they're not going to like Asian food, or they're not going to like British food, or whatever the case may be. And that's fine. They know that their food is not going to please everyone. You need to understand that you are not going to be able to please everyone. The second that you let go of that, The second you get that through your head is the second that you'll feel free in whatever it is that you're doing. All right, gang? Hopefully that was of some use to some of you. If any of you do feel that other people might benefit from hearing even a little bit of this, if you feel that there are some people around you that are just holding, they've got these limiting beliefs, they've got these stuff that's holding them back, even if it is the tall poppy syndrome or the fact that they just don't have that inner belief, please tag them in this so that they can have a listen to what it is that I've got to, because I swear down, if they want to have what they define as success in their lives, these 4 elements that we can learn from the biggest chefs in the world could go a long way towards solving their problems. Anyway, team, hope you have an amazing week. All right, rock and roll to the best of your abilities. For those in Melbourne, 11:59 Thursday night is when things start changing for us. You do need to make sure that everyone that you do let through your properties is double vaxxed and all the rest of it, right? And your teams need to be double vaxxed in order to head on site according to the mandate as well. I ain't going to get into an argument about whether that's right or wrong or indifferent. That's just what it is in black and white in the mandate. And there's massive fines, gang. So I don't know if I'll be taking a punt on it, to be honest. But wherever you are around the country and over in New Zealand, I hope you stay safe, healthy, and happy. I'll look forward to seeing you Wednesday night, same back channel, same time. Until then, my friends, look after yourselves, and we'll speak to you real soon. Take it easy.